I've always felt like I was so hindered by having a fly reel.
It's just so heavy.
I don't even use the reel.
I can't even understand how the reel works.
I did hear that a tenkara rod is the best way to teach someone to cast.
You don't have the reel. You don't have to mess with like the line. It's all the same length. It's all set. I've never gone trout fishing with a tenkara rod, but I have used a tenkara rod before to catch like panfish on poppers, and it actually does work well for like teaching someone to cast.
Can we get this guy out of here?
I guess we should say welcome back. It's been quite a minute since I did a podcast.
Coming at you live from Salt Lake.
Dude, this is the first podcast that I've recorded. Well, the first podcast that will come out this year, technically. So,
Wow.
We're getting back into it.
How are you enjoying Salt Lake? It's been, 3 months?
Yeah. I was going to say we're here in Adam's basement, also known as my house right now. my living space. But, yeah, Salt Lake has been killer. I mean, it was like a great way to get out west of like spending Adam allowing me to live here for a little bit and getting a taste of it and like the mountains, the proximity of the mountains and skiing and biking and fishing. It's like, it's crazy.
Yeah. There's a lot of sports to get distracted with.
Yeah.
We had a nice powder day earlier.
Dude, we did. Brighton.
That was sick.
Yeah, that was a good day.
We also forgot to mention that you guys are sitting here on Brent's bed.
This is my guest room.
The guest room.
You got like a 2-hour limit.
Okay. Well, thanks for letting me in.
In your own basement.
Yeah, but
Appreciate
I mean,
that.
this winter we're doing a bunch of skiing. We were definitely hitting the slopes pretty hard, and now it's starting to really hit. It's like fishing season, so it's definitely got.
You're getting into the small streams already, like a taste of home.
I know. It's literally like a lot of the stuff from Boone. It's very similar, which has been awesome. Not quite Adam's cup of tea, but
I want big fish and streamers.
That's right.
And a boat.
So I definitely get stuck in the like big fish. You kind of got to be in the bigger rivers. I get stuck wanting to chase that, but it's still like fun to go do a half day on the little creeks because it's so not serious. You don't have to bring hardly anything, like one small box of flies, one spool of tippet, and a little 3-weight, and like you'll have a blast.
I love it like 3 to 4 days a year, and I'm good.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because it's what I grew up doing, and now like being out west, I'm like, I want the big fish, I want big water, long casts, I want to be in the boat, even floating and waiting, something like that. But
so, yeah. How often you're probably more inclined to get out of the boat if you're fishing a bigger river?
Yeah.
But like, you put Adam and I in a boat, we will not get out. Like
maybe for a business meeting, potentially.
Yeah,
lunch.
if I got to take a Zoom call on the shore, that's fine. But like, I'm sitting in my comfy chair and I'm casting my 7-weight.
Dude, and that's totally okay. It's totally okay. You got a red beer in hand, and you're good to go.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't get that far away from the cooler.
Yeah, exactly. I just like to get out every once in a while. I do. I mean, in the summer especially, it's really fun to get out of the boat. Especially if you're like parked up and there's a cool little riffle that's like maybe there's a little side channel. Because I always take it as like not many people are going to get out and go fish that.
Yeah, especially if it's a side channel that a boat or especially like a hard drift boat couldn't get down, then that's a great play.
Yep,
it works super well on a lot of rivers out here.
Yeah, I wouldn't know, but like I'm sure it would work well.
Yeah. Note taken,
I'm not gonna
right?
try it either.
Yeah. But like next time we're on the boat, I'll watch you when you get out of the boat, Scotty, and I'll go see how you do.
I'll bring the binoculars, make sure you're safe over there.
Yeah.
And like,
hey, there's a moose coming. You should
hop on back. Oh man.
But I do like the small streams because like you're saying, you kind of can simplify things. Like you really barely need any gear, and you need a small rod, you need like a couple flies, and especially, I mean, these fish aren't super spooky on tippet most of the time, so it's like as long as your presentation's half decent, you
run a long enough leader, you got a soft rod, so you'll be good to go.
But I mean, it's the same thing. I couldn't do it all year,
right?
I like having a variety of things, but it being like accessible 20-30 minutes from the house, 15 minutes from the house, is not a bad option if you want to just get out and fish for a couple hours.
It's hard to
Totally.
beat.
I think in one of your last videos you talked a little bit about it, but one thing that's pretty engaging about the small stream stuff is how technical the casting can be, and like sometimes it's not even casting. You just are finding a way for your flies to get in between all these bushes. Like that can be pretty fun, getting creative on like, okay, well, I have no room to cast. Like, what am I going to do? And trying to not snag your flies and spook the whole hole. I don't know. That can be pretty engaging. Like sometimes out of a boat, it's literally just like pick and slap, and slap.
Dude, I remember the first time I started fishing out of a boat, because I'm always so conscious of checking my bag cast. And I remember kept doing that. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Like,
so much room. This is crazy. I don't even know how to cast like this.
Yeah, what? I have room for a back cast?
What? What's a double haul?
I don't need that.
Yeah.
I got my bow and arrow.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you guys just made a trip. Well, I first should say that you guys started up a podcast this year called the Ramblin Fly Podcast. And if any of you guys are listening, if you want a little more of Adam and a little more of Brent, sneak on over to, right now it's on the Blue Line channel,
Yes.
or on Spotify. You can check it out. Just Ramblin Fly, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Ramblin Fly Podcast. And
Do you guys ramble on there, or what do you do?
no, it's all business.
Okay.
Like it
No
isn't-
jokes.
no frills, no jokes.
No carnivals, no games.
It's strictly like technical, in-depth data-driven podcast.
Data, okay.
Yeah.
Where do you collect your data from?
My
just-
head.
Yeah.
I generate the data up here.
There's
Okay.
a big old calculator up here.
Yeah.
But what? So we've actually filmed episode 10 and I guess 11
We're
and
up to, like,
12.
12
but
now, yeah.
but Brent had a computer malfunction.
My computer is worthless. It's just like it can run emails and that's it. So
And now that's put us back from posting some of the keeping
we're
up
on
with
like
some
a
of the
couple
stuff,
month
but-
hiatus, but yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I'm stoked for you to have us on here, and I've been thinking about bringing you on, so this might work out both ways.
Oh, wow. Thank
yeah,
you.
we'll have to switch roles eventually.
Yeah, dude. Let me sit in this chair and see how it feels.
Yeah, ooh, king of the castle.
Well, I think, you guys obviously, because you're in different locations right now, it's been mostly over like Zoom, or we
Yep.
use Riverside,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So logistically that can make it tricky sometimes, but it's worked out so far for y'all. It seems like the audio sounds good.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
We're trying.
It's probably the editor.
Yeah, all the editor. It's like mostly just the hardware. My computer is just crushing it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, we're nowhere near your level of getting everything together, but we're learning, and it's fun. We get to talk about what's happening in the fly fishing world and make some jokes, and we do talk a little bit in depth sometimes about leaders and fly lines and fly design and whatever, but mostly just a lot of joking around, and
Yeah.
it's fun.
A lot of rambling.
Yeah, a lot of rambling.
Well, I think you guys bring a unique perspective because you both have, I guess you have more time, so to say, in the industry, or both of you do, than I do, like working in the industry, so to say.
Right.
I've been like fly fishing and been doing wildfly and what I'm doing, but that's kind of like always what I've known. That, and then small scale fly shop, like very working with a fly shop in college. But you guys have actually, like, you understand more of the technical stuff when it comes to gear, when it comes to technique and everything. Whereas I'm just like, sure, this rod casts. This is good.
What's wrong with the rods we got?
They cast pretty good.
They cast pretty good.
Exactly.
Well, it's interesting because they're, it's all the same industry. Like technically you're in the industry.
Yeah.
But they're fairly well separated. Like from the manufacturer's perspective versus the content creation / marketing and more community side. I would think you're more on the community side, and there's decent separation there. But as you and I hang out more, and Adam and I hang out more, we learn more from each other, and you're not far off, but there is a little bit of information that doesn't cross over as much. Like when I go into sales trainings for Gloomis fly rods, like I'm learning about nano alloy resins and molecular structures and whatnot. And you know,
Guys, Adam's ringtone is the Alabama theme song, and it goes off anytime he gets a call. So loud.
Roll Tide, baby.
Roll Tide. Anyways.
A lot of times I'll just listen to it go off. If I don't answer, that's what's happening. I just got into it a little too much.
He's just letting it play.
Yeah. But yeah, like you're saying.
Yeah, so, you know, I learn about like the hardware and the manufacturing side, but you guys have such a skill for telling story and creating visuals that bring, you know, the technical side to a you know, like something that a consumer can digest,
Right.
that they can understand and like relate to. It's kind of hard sometimes when, you know, if I end up talking to a customer, like sometimes I'll go way too far into the weeds and they're just like, dude, I don't care.
Right.
Like, does it get the fly where I want it to?
Yeah.
And like, what does it mean if I have this brand on my fly rod or my waders, whatever? Because that's a bit of a thing. Like, you care what the logo says a little bit. So, and you're just like so powerful at telling these stories, and it's
Wow, powerful is a strong adjective. Thank you. I don't think I've ever been
Powerful
described as
storyteller.
powerful, but no, I appreciate it. I think, yeah, part of it's like I spend so much of my efforts and time looking into, or I guess kind of like trying to hone in the craft of filmmaking, right? And like understand, be a student of YouTube, be a student of the platform. So I'm spending like a lot of my efforts on that. And then the fly fishing stuff I do spend my time on, but that's usually just through experience, and like I'm not doing as much research maybe on like the technical stuff of fly fishing. And maybe that's just because I'm being lazy, but
no. You've only got so much time. Like,
yeah. So I think it's, because you're not maybe putting together film or whatever, you need those tools in your toolbox as a salesman to go in and like be able to talk about the rod and be able to understand it. And so that probably translates over into other gear in the industry that you use.
Right.
But I
Not
think
just
that's-
rods.
I think that's part of why we work well together, is because it's like the two different sides of it. It's like you don't have to know all the technical stuff, because I'll show up, be like, hey, this is a good rod.
Yeah.
And you're like, great.
That's actually why. It's because Adam knows.
Yeah.
But so I do that side of stuff, and then it's just like, hey, here's a good rod, here's a good reel, and you're like, oh, yeah, it is.
Yep.
Hey, this rod and line pairs well together. Here you go, and you're like, shit, it does.
Like, wow, this is good. Thanks, Adam.
I like this.
It's actually working, like doing what I wanted to. Yeah.
But that's, yeah, I mean, it just kind of comes down to having, you know, that it works well together, having people that are on your side, more your side of things, and doing more of the creative stuff, and then people on more of our side of stuff doing more of the, you know, knowing a little more about the technical stuff. And
But we don't know how to deliver the message as well.
right.
Like, we can go cast a rod and feel like, oh yeah, this line's too heavy in the front, but as soon as you get towards the belly, it's all good, but whatever it might be. Whereas you might not be able to explain that as easy, but you can sell the whole package or like make it digestible to the consumer of like, this works and whatever. So it's kind of cool to see both sides work together. And actually, I think one thing we were planning on talking about is how the marketing has changed. And it feels to me like sales and marketing are coming closer, where we can tell the story of why the technology works much better than we have in the past. And I wonder if it's just because because you guys are paying so much attention to your craft of like storytelling and visuals along with the story. That might be part of why we're able to tell such good technology stories.
I mean, there are now these platforms like YouTube, like TikTok, Instagram, that are allowing people to share a message and kind of communicate like what you're saying, these things, and this technical stuff that is applicable to your arsenal of fly fishing, I guess. And so I think there's more opportunity now, especially because more people are getting into the space of creating in our world of fly fishing, which is already so niche.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so there's not that many people who are doing it, and most people don't do it full time. Like, there's not that many people out there that are filmmaking just for the fly fishing stuff full time.
Right.
There are people that do it, but then a lot of times there's people who film, and then maybe they'll film for like car, or they'll film for another business, or
Yep.
another outdoor sports. So it's hard to find that like perfect in between where it's someone who is like dialed on filming and dialed on fishing, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
But I think that is becoming more and more of a need in our space.
Right. Yeah, and like, you know, as you're starting out and you're learning how to edit and how to change settings on the camera and understanding that whole side of things, that takes away from the time you could be spending on the river learning, you know, how different leader tapers affect your presentation, etc. Well, if you're spending all your time working on, well, this fly works with 2 copper wraps instead of 1, you're probably not going to understand how to adjust the camera settings and edit videos as much. So, you know, as you get more and more efficient at each of those, you might be able to close the gap and get better at both. But that takes some time for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something that for a while I felt, I guess not shameful of or guilty of, but it was like my guide buddies in college were spending so much time and getting so good at fishing and like really understanding the river and understanding the bugs and everything like that. And I was spending so much time on the editing. I was still able to go out and catch fish and have a good time and do all right, you know? But yeah, I think it is a bit of a sacrifice, the filming side of things, which I think is okay. I'm now realizing it's like, that's okay. You have time to learn everything. You also don't need to know everything.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
that's one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
Squirmy worms, you just tie that on,
Yeah.
and you catch fish.
Learn that from you.
How
Eggs.
that works.
Yeah.
You don't have to learn anything about bugs.
Yeah.
No entomology.
Entomology is useless.
Yeah.
You just need worm farming.
You just need Euro nymph rod and
Yeah,
you're good.
Just a worm, you're ready to roll.
Yeah, Brent, what happened to your voice, bud?
I don't know, actually.
Losing it.
So I
Here,
had
hold it right here to try to like talking to the top. There you go.
I had a meeting a couple days ago, and day before the meeting, my voice is fine. I wake up, go get breakfast, drive a couple hours to go to this meeting, and I show up, and I ask the secretary, you know, hey, like, I'm here to see this guy. And that is how I found out my voice was gone. I have no idea. I don't feel sick. It's just voice. It's been a couple days now, but I do apologize to the listeners that you have to listen to this raspiness today.
It doesn't sound that bad, truthfully.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah.
It feels a little different.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, go over to Ramblin Fly and you can hear what you sound like.
Yeah, we can click on over.
Yeah.
Maybe let's just click over to that right now.
Yeah.
And then you won't
All
have
right,
to
thanks
listen.
for listening, guys. See you later. But off of like kind of the marketing thing, because you've been in, you work with Gloomis on the sales side of things, you are seeing like how their business functions is strictly direct to business, right? Or what would you
Yep.
consider that too?
B2B is
B2B.
versus direct to consumer would be how we do it, or you call it a wholesale model. But, you know, essentially we make the rods, we sell them to fly shops, and the fly shops sell them to the end consumer. That's in the other way to do it would be, you know, X brand makes the rods, puts them on their website, and sells them direct to the consumer. It's kind of a big topic in the industry as we get more and more towards the online side of things. But you know, I'm a big mountain biker as well, and it seems like fly fishing and mountain biking have a little more reason to stick with the wholesale model. Like, customer goes to a fly shop or a bike shop to buy their rod or their bike, whatever it might be, because it's really, really hard to describe how a rod feels casting through a computer. Same with how a bike rides. Like, if I'm looking to buy a new rod, I'm going to spend a lot of money on a rod. I probably want to make an educated decision. And I can look up all the tech specs and say this one's fast, this one's medium, this one has snake guides, this one has, you know, recoil guides, whatever. I can look at it all on paper, but it's really hard to put into perspective what that feels like and how it matches your style of fishing. And that's where I think the value comes with fly shops, is you can go cast them all side by side, and you get the local perspective of like someone that hopefully is more experienced at fishing than you. They know, like, they've cast more different rods, they've fished with more different fly lines. They can give you that perspective of like, well, on this river you're probably going to need to cast 30 feet max, but it's really important to cast well in that 20 to 30 foot range. So maybe a fast action rod isn't good for that. Maybe you want a slightly softer rod, or maybe you want to overline or whatever. It's a lot harder to do that from an online platform. So I think that is where the real value add is with fly shops, not to mention the community around, hanging out and tying flies with everyone on a Thursday night or whatever it might be. But, the direct to consumer thing can serve some people that maybe are a little more price conscious, and maybe they've figured their needs out on their own. And they're willing to take a chance on like, I think this fly rod will work. It probably will. So I'm just going to buy it online and then I'll see if it works. So anyway, it's a weird time in the industry.
Yeah. Cause I'm curious why a company maybe wouldn't go online. Like Gloomis, for example, you can only buy in retailers in a fly shop. What's the hold up from offering both?
So the holdup is like, number one, our existing retailers, our partners that have been on our team selling, educating, and making sure we have a good brand presence in the market. We would be taking sales from them. And, that would not be a good partnership if we're taking sales from them on one end and then still expecting them to like try and go sell and feed their families on the other side. So that would be one thing. And then the other thing is again, that like education piece. It would be very hard.
Little sip break.
Hold on.
Need to get you some tea.
Something. Let's see. We were talking about how the partnership works between, the fly shops have been supporting us for as long as we've been in business. They have been the ones telling the story directly to the customer about the technology story and et cetera, about the brand. Well, we would still be asking them to go tell that story and like put our rods in other people's hands versus other brands' rods. So it wouldn't be that great of a partner move to say like, yeah, you keep telling the message, but we're going to sell the rods online and we're going to take the money. So that would be one very difficult thing. I suppose from the consumer's point of view, if we did go direct to consumer, we could probably lower our prices a little bit. But as you go direct to consumer, your marketing and education costs go up a lot more. Because instead of having the shop tell the story,
right,
we would have to tell the story through, marketing programs of some sort. But anyway, the benefit to the consumer would be that they might have a slightly more affordable rod.
Yeah.
But if you have the wrong rod, is it that much of a benefit? Like, we're hoping that if you go to the fly shop, you end up with the right tool for the right job.
Right.
Because you get to experience more.
And I mean, in reality, coming from sales myself, it's like the knowledge that the guys at the fly shop are giving is worth, there's a dollar amount connected to how much knowledge those guys have.
Right. They cast all the rods.
Right.
They try everything.
Right. So if you're going to go into a shop and you're going to talk to someone who is knowledgeable about something like that, like the dollar amount that you might save off of going direct to consumer is not going to benefit you. It's not going to. You're good. Okay. It's not going to, be able to fill that gap.
Right. Yeah, like the fly shop is filtering through all of the marketing noise essentially.
Right.
And making your decision quicker and hopefully more accurate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's an interesting thing because, some of the bigger brands, get a little bit of heat about having expensive prices. And it's not all just because of the wholesale model. Like, they're American-made rods, etc. Like, there's a lot of costs that go into that. But then, you know, the marketing cost to do direct-to-consumer is pretty high. But I don't think there is a direct-to-consumer American-made brand. So you're going to end up with a lower cost product because it's overseas, which adds to the like, oh man, there's a huge price difference between these, you know, bigger wholesale brands versus a direct-to-consumer brand. Well, there's also a huge gap in craftsmanship when it comes to American-made versus an import. So,
and there's a lot more technology and time that's been put into a company that's like maybe American-made or just has been around longer.
Sure.
Because they've had the time to develop a product over time, like years and years. And I think that is also tricky to, as a consumer, to buy a rod that's $900, $1,000 on a whim,
right,
online. You know, I mean, you go and buy like maybe a $200 starter rod, $100 starter rod. You know, that's not the end of the world. Most of those rods are going to perform pretty similarly. But I guess that makes sense. If you're going to buy something that is an NRX or like, you know, a really expensive rod.
Yeah, Winston or
you
Scott, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And plus, a lot of the rods that you buy from overseas are actually, a lot of the brands are the same rods. They just rebrand.
Right.
Yep. And they may put a different taper on them.
Slightly different taper, different guide, or different cork, or whatever. But in reality, building that product, they can mass produce those because they're selling to 6 different rod companies essentially the same product.
Yeah.
So the product development, the product design, all that kind of stuff only really happens once, and then they fine tune them and send them to the different rod manufacturers that you know of. But the U.S. made rods are very different because Gloomis designs this rod.
Yeah.
So all that product time doesn't get split over as many units.
Right. And if you look across the high-end brands, we're all using fairly different carbons and resins. There was a period where we all went through using essentially the same resin, but the materials are different enough. It's not like you're all using the same exact graphite and the same exact resin.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there is different combinations of materials that give a rod a different feel, along with the construction of building a taper. So,
and I think like you're saying on the local fly shops deal, obviously you want those shops marketing, so to say, for you, and you really want to go to a local shop anyways because they're going to know the best for your situation, your area.
Right.
Instead of, hey, if you live in North Carolina, calling a shop in Montana saying, hey, what rod should I buy? It's like they're not going to be able to tell you the best rod for your situation.
Yeah, they don't know your needs very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's start back. Like, how did you, get into the world of like working in fly fishing in that world? And then how did you now land up to where you are now with Gloomis?
Yeah. I stumbled into fly fishing. One of my good friends through high school, he was a guide, and he took me fishing for fly fishing for the first time freshman year or so. And it was like a really weekend, occasional thing through high school. I played baseball, and that took up most of my time. And then got a marketing degree, started working with my dad in real estate out of college, and I ended up, instead of working, I would just go hang out in the fly shop because I didn't like writing copy for real estate ads.
Because you didn't like working?
Mostly because I didn't like working. So I ended up just hanging around the fly shop for a lot of the day, and eventually that turned into like, well, hey, maybe I'll work half-time for my dad, half-time in the fly shop. And then it turned into full-time in the fly shop, and I ended up managing that shop, Arbor Anglers in Golden for a while, which is now Golden Fly Shop. And every year we'd go to the struggling.
Let me know if you need some water too. And if we need to take a break, we can like cut out any of this,
Yeah, I'm trying to make it easier on you.
No, yeah.
But every year we have the Denver Fly Show, and the Arbor Anglers booth was right across from Gloomis, and we didn't sell sage. and Gloomis was our premier brand, which is lucky for me because I always liked fishing their rods. And so anyway, I worked close with them at this show, and when it came time for them to find a new rep, they had this experience of me like hustling at these shows and selling a lot of their rods. So it was like a pretty natural fit for me to come over and work as a sales rep. I don't work directly for Gloomis. I work for a rep group, but anyway, so now that's how I ended up with Gloomis, and man, I'm stoked. It's fun. I get to drive around and talk about actually my favorite rods.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's good when it's genuine. Like you actually have fished the rods in the past, and you have experience with the company too. Like in, where's it going? I was gonna say that is also how we met you through Gloomis, and kind of our relationship with Gloomis, which is pretty cool. But what does your job exactly look like? Because I know you work for a sales group, and so you kind of rep multiple brands,
right?
And then how does that work, and then how does Gloomis fit into that?
It's like what I do for Gloomis, I do the same for other brands, which is basically I just I have sales goals I need to meet, and I've got retail partners like XYZ local fly shop, and I go in there and talk to them about the fly rods, ask them what they need, and if they show some interest in what I'm trying to sell them, I'll teach them about it, give them all the information I think they need to sell the rods. And part of that is going fishing with the brand or with the fly shops and like developing a friendship and a relationship with them. And that's probably the coolest part about my job, is that like I get to go meet all these awesome guys and girls, go fish with them and get to know them and become friends. And so work is just essentially hanging out with my friends.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Dude, which is the best part about all this. Like this whole thing that we've been doing is like every time we go on a short bus trip or any sort of trip and film, we run into new people like you or whoever else. And it's so fun because you like automatically just have this connection with somebody. And you've got this like thing that is fly fishing that brings you together, and obviously come from different lives, but you can relate on something that is so niche,
right.
Which is fun because it's good to have a community and feel like you're part of a community, instead of sometimes you feel like you're just kind of doing it on your own. Like, am I?
Yeah. No. You have this like this baseline understanding of each other, because one fairly large aspect of your life that's driven you is fly fishing and figuring out how to get a fish to eat a feather. And so you start off with that baseline of like, okay, you and I like the same thing, at least part of us. But then you learn like, oh, guess what? Scotty also likes to bike. Well, I do too. And you can develop a friendship very quickly because of that baseline. You all have the same baseline interest. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I've met some of like pretty much all of my best friends I've met through fishing.
Yeah. We joke all the time how we don't have many friends now that aren't in fishing.
No, it's hard. Like
it's hard to relate sometimes.
Yeah. So then they're talking about stuff that's not fishing, like work or jobs.
Yeah. That's
you're talking about just, I don't know. It's just, I don't know, with where we're at, or at least where I'm at, it's like harder and harder to relate with people that don't fly fish. I assume everyone watching this probably fly fishes, but
yeah, well, or is a little fly curious,
or is at least a little fly curious about it.
Just hope they're not Euro curious.
You want to make a hot take about Euro nymphing really quick?
Why do
I plead the fifth.
Why did they make a rod for Euro nymphing?
I'll defend it right now.
Oh god.
If you compare Euro nymphing to spin fishing or gear fishing, and I know you can't. Basically, there's more of an art to the Eurocast than most people give it credit for, especially if you haven't tried it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's difficult to do it proficiently. I'll leave it at that.
Well, I'll at least also say, I know, like, not only does the extra length help you with mending and line management stuff, but also you get that extra
tippet protection.
Tippet protection using lighter tippets. Plus, you do get a lot more feeling, I feel like, where you're at the end, you have that longer, rod that you can has a little more sensitivity at the end than like a short rod would. So when you're kind of bumping along, I feel like I can, it's a little more like responsive.
Yeah, I think that comes down to like the vibrations coming through the leader don't get dampened by a thicker fly line near as much, because the fly line would dampen those vibrations. So you do get more direct feedback through the rod and through the thin leader. Actually, a shorter rod would, in theory, be able to transmit more vibrations.
Stiffer.
But
well, there you go.
if you're trying to Euro nymph with a short rod, you're going to be...
Yeah, then it's not going to work
But
either.
then it takes away the part of, kind of having that drag-free drift. You want the length to be able to reach into that hole.
Yeah.
And it's deadly. Like, I've done it.
Oh,
and it's
man.
really deadly. It's not like the way I prefer to fish, I should say. So, and I never want to, like, really hate on it, because you can fish however you want. I don't care. But the casting, you're essentially you're not even using normal fly line.
Correct.
You're essentially using mono or leader.
Yeah.
Right?
You're using the acceleration of your hand to flex the rod more so than you are the weight of a fly line or the lure or the weighted flies. The weighted flies do come into effect on loading the rod, but much less so than like a fly line would loading a standard rod.
Right.
So
And Gloomis just came out with one.
Yep.
Euro specific rod, right? This past year.
We've got 2 IMX Pro Euro rods, and they're purpose built. Like, every feature on them is darn specific to Euro nymphing, and so it's cool to use technology to come to like a specific purpose, which is, I love that part about product design and like technical selling, is when you have real features that are specifically made for one purpose. And so that's fun. But yeah, we joke around about Euro nymphing, but it can be fun, and it is deadly, no doubt.
Yeah.
And people watching this, don't email me about the Euro rod, because I know nothing about it. I cannot help you. I know that I live in Utah.
You live in Utah.
I think people just are like, oh, he lives in Salt Lake, he Euro nymphs. I'm going to ask him about it.
Hey, so what hole do you Euro nymph on the Provo? Can you?
Yeah, I'll send you a whole pin map with a bunch of pins. If you're interested in a Euro rod, call Brent.
Yeah, Brent's inbox is looking pretty empty.
Shoot Brent.
I'm by no means a
email.
Euro expert. I can tell you like maybe how our rod will help the theory of how you want a Euro nymph, but like I'm by no means an expert. I've Euro nymphed enough to know that there's a lot of skill that goes into like the really proficient Euro nymphers, but
I've
even
Euro nymphed enough to know I don't want to do it anymore.
I love it.
All right, that should lead us into Tenkara fishing.
Yeah.
All right, just kidding. We're not gonna go there.
The
new
Tenkara
Ask with
Diaries is
Tenkara
coming
rod.
out pretty soon.
The new Tenkara Gloomis rod is coming out.
Yep.
Summer of never.
I think it exists in Japan. Like I think there is.
Tenkara rod.
I'm pretty sure there's an Ask with Tenkara rod. I'm
Wow.
not certain on this. This could just be folklore.
Interesting.
I want one.
No, you
It's pretty
don't.
big over there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
For sure. But
I've always felt like I was so hindered by having a fly reel.
it's just so heavy.
It's so heavy. I don't
even use
I
the
can't even
reel.
understand how the reel works.
Yeah.
It's too complex
It's
for me.
another thing to break.
Yep.
Like I'm out.
I feel like I kind of want to try it just to say I've tried it and I've done it.
It's actually, I will say, I heard, I can't remember what source I heard this from, but so I
Definitely true.
it's not going to be in my bibliography at the end of the podcast, but I did hear that a Tenkara rod is the best way to teach someone to cast, because it is very simple. You don't have the reel, you don't have to mess with like the line. It's all the same length. It's all set and fixed. And like, I've caught some panfish and stuff. I've never gone trout fishing with a Tenkara rod, but I have used a Tenkara rod before to catch like panfish on poppers and whatever, and it actually does work well for like teaching someone to cast.
Can we get this guy out of here?
I've also done it just enough to know that I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. There you go.
No, it would be a good tool in teaching cadence and like how acceleration and momentum would bend the rod for sure.
Yes.
So,
And because like it is so long that it bends really easily.
yeah, it'd be a forgiving way to
Yes.
teach cadence for sure.
You're gonna have some
Anyways.
Tenkara brands reaching out to you now.
don't reach
Just
out
heads
to me.
up.
Don't call me.
But I think like you were saying about the Gloomis rod, you know, like a rod like the Euro Nymphing one, being very specialized and having very specialized functions for it. I think that's really important in any craft, right? Like filmmaking or whatever it is, being like dialing into like your thing, right? And finding a niche. Like, fortunately, I've found this niche of fly fishing on YouTube somehow. Like, it wasn't a thing.
You've done well at it.
Yeah, we're learning along the way, but it's because I think you kind of have to find that thing and then just go all in on it.
Yeah.
You know, because then if you start to try to do this and then you try to do that and you try to do another thing, it just gets you get spread too thin.
Yep.
And I was explaining the analogy to you guys the other day, which I heard this recently and love it. So basically the analogy was comparing like a restaurant to a YouTube channel. And essentially it's a Chinese restaurant, right? Your favorite Chinese restaurant. You go in there to eat Chinese food. But then you show up one day and they have donuts there. And you're like, and maybe you like donuts, but you're not going to the Chinese store for donuts, right? So I think it's the same with YouTube. If you're coming back to that YouTube channel, you're usually coming to that channel for one or two reasons.
Yep.
And if they're offering something that's completely different each time, you're not going to come back. You know, it's just like, roll the dice. What's going to be today?
Yeah, there won't be the consistency for sure.
Yeah, and it's the same with a rod brand. You want to deliver that same consistency and that same top tier performance every time, you know, so people know, oh, this is why I like Gloomis, because every time they reach this certain standard or whatever.
Yeah, and that might not just be like, well, I want a fast action rod for every purpose. It might be like, I want the optimized taper for this purpose. Like, you probably don't want an extra fast rod for a creek rod. You probably want a little slower rod, but yeah, like you said, you go to XYZ brand for the consistency, and like, you know, for our rods, I like to think that we make them best suited for the specific purpose, whether that's a saltwater rod or a trout rod or a Euro Nymphing rod. Like, we're not gonna force the wrong thing into that purpose. So I enjoy that about, you know, the team that develops the products. I don't have a ton to do with developing the products. I like to think I have a little input, but not much.
We'll say.
Yeah. So, but yeah, they do a damn good job.
So what do you think is the biggest thing that sets Gloomis apart from other rods in their market?
The number one would be the technology that we use inside of the rods, and like, it's not really even things you can see. Like the multi-taper, which has turned into dynamic recovery technology, is why our rods can be so light in hand. And like, if you talk to any saltwater guide, you know, they don't break on fish. Like, our rods don't just break. But yeah, the technology inside the rods, I'm not going to dive into like all the craziness, but there is a lot of special things going on in them. And then the tapers that are made for the purpose. You know, we have a dry fly rod like the LP. It's got a softer, more accessible tip that's easier to set down gentle versus, you know, a streamer rod that's going to have a super powerful tip. So yeah, I think it's more so just building things for a specific purpose versus trying to make a Swiss Army knife that does everything okay.
Got it. Because usually if you're coming to get a rod like a Gloomis, you probably want it very specified, because if you're going to be spending that kind of money on it, you know, you're like, this is going to be my streamer rod or whatever it is.
And we make, like, our 5 weights are kind of more of a general purpose taper, aside from the LP. But yeah, like, the 5 weight is probably the one rod where you might buy a more expensive rod and not have a very specific purpose. But as soon as you get outside of that, or maybe your saltwater 8 weight, as soon as you get outside of that, then it's like, okay, I'm into fishing. I'm spending most of my weekends fishing. I might be taking a couple trips a year. There's even a possibility, like, I chose my work because, like, the job that I took enables me to be able to go fishing. So, like, you're pretty far down the rabbit hole. You're going to be buying, like, a very specific tool for a specific job.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, no, It's interesting to learn about this because, I mean, like if I would have just worked in a shop for a while or whatever, I probably would have understood a lot of this more. But it's not really something that like always comes to my mind. I'm just like, oh, here's a rod. Let me cast it.
Right. Well, when we look at your cameras, we just see like a black box with a piece of glass on the front of it. Like, you know a lot more about what's going on inside of those things and how, you know, the technologies inside your camera are going to enable you to like show a story, tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, we just talked about the bandwidth. Like, you've spent a lot of your bandwidth learning the technical side of that, and we've just been dicking around figuring out how to get feathers to place more efficiently.
Dude, that's right.
Well, one of my favorite things that I have actually really liked about the Gloomis rods, now that I've like cast quite a few of the different ones other than the Euro one, is a lot of other companies that I've like that make rods that I've cast, their different series really doesn't mean very much. Like, I feel like it, maybe there's different resins and whatever in the world, because you know way more about that stuff than I do. But if you like, I feel like when I go cast one of like a 3-weight and a 5-weight, it really isn't a different rod. It's just a different,
Like a softer action.
yeah. They don't actually change a lot of that stuff. Or if it's a company that makes really soft rods and then they try to make a saltwater rod, it's still a very soft saltwater rod. Versus I feel like kind of what you were saying with the Gloomis stuff, like I feel like they actually change a lot more to the rod than just more material, less material, different tape, you know, we're just going to taper it quicker, whatever.
Sure.
But across the different series of rods, like you were saying, the Creek rod and the LP.
Yep.
LP meaning light presentation, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. And that rod is like, even though it's so it's an NRX LP versus the NRX Plus.
Yep.
And it is 100% different.
Right. The taper on that is drastically different. Yep.
Yes. It's not, you can tell it was designed from the ground up as a different rod. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's the exact same materials and stuff, which why it's still called an NRX. I don't know.
It is. Yep.
But yeah, you can tell from the tapers from the ground up that it was a different rod.
Yeah. And I like, you know, in that particular example, the LP has different furniture. Like the real seat is different than the regular NRX Plus line. And, you know, it fits the vibe of more dry fly fishing than, you know, it's a little prettier for the dry fly people versus, you know, the regular NRX might look a little more hardcore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the word you use there, furniture.
Yes.
Fits the vibe.
That's right.
Fits the vibe of the house, of the rod.
Is the rod tube made of tweed?
We're actually developing an advanced tweed compound.
I knew it.
Totally kidding.
I knew it.
Fused with hemp, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's renewable.
Renewable.
So,
okay,
yeah.
got it.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, well, you guys just went down to Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to hear a little bit about that trip and what you guys were doing down there, one, and how the fishing was. You guys did some smallmouth fishing. You did some largemouth fishing. How was the trip? Like, I got to hear about it.
My mind was blown. Like, I've dabbled in warm water, but nothing really serious. And growing up in Colorado, like, our warm water is fairly limited. It seems like it's getting a bit better, but dear God.
Had you ever, before this, taken a dedicated warm water fishing trip? Not
Never.
like I'm going to go warm water fishing today.
No.
Like, I'm going on a trip to go warm water fish.
Just saltwater would be the closest. Yeah. Yeah. How much time have you spent in Alabama or like smallmouth fishing?
I mean, I've only gone down 2 or 3 times really to Alabama.
3?
Yeah, three.
Three.
I think 3 times.
Viewers can fact check us.
Yeah.
But I think it's 3.
Yeah. And then I've done a little bit in North Carolina. Very, very minimal.
Okay.
But which is crazy to think. I feel like I've done it a lot when I haven't. But when I've been there and we did it, we were fishing so hard, so it felt like we were there for so long.
I heard that.
Yeah.
And I think I loved it so much, kind of like you're saying. My mind was blown because I never considered it. I never considered Alabama as a destination that I want to go fish, or smallmouth. I don't know why there's these misconceptions in the air.
No, people are just wrong.
Whoever just threw them in the air, the fish gods, to protect the smallmouth.
Yeah. Thank you.
But
Yeah.
I loved it, man.
So my favorite part about it was for those of you that don't know, trout, I trout fish, and I prefer very heavily to fish trout with streamers, large streamers and 7 weights. That's kind of my favorite way to do it. Well, so conveniently, smallmouth
It just so
like to
happens.
eat very similar to to a trout, but so we're throwing 7 weights on very small creeks, and there's like, I don't want to say high pressure, but like you have to get the fly through brush. Like there's trees behind you, so you have to keep your cast low. You have to throw a tight loop to get under branches or through a little hole, and like it's quite technical casting, which is super engaging. It's super fun, and that doesn't mean like you have to be a perfect caster to do it, but the better caster you are means you can get your fly more efficiently into more of the little potential holes. And man, like I would get done with half a day of smallmouth fishing and I would be fried, because like I'm just going and going, like trying to hit every little pocket, and like you got to be on if you want to like be super efficient about it. And man, I love that.
We always talk about like if you get caught in a rhythm with smallmouth fishing or just streamer fishing in general, oftentimes you might be missing out on stuff. Like you're not changing things up, right? You're just doing the same thing over and over and over. But yeah, you kind of have to be on and like changing your presentation until you finally maybe get some that clicks.
Yep.
But yeah, it's like every time you throw it over a log or something, you're like, oh, is he gonna come out? Is he gonna come out? Oh, there he is. It's the best.
Man, they eat hard.
Oh, dude, they do.
Yeah, it's really cool. They don't like, trout will run for the current and like take a good hard run, but these fish just keep like, they will swim away from you so hard. It's not like they're taking drag, but they got some heart. They do not want to be in the net.
No, dude. And right when you hook them too, it's like gone.
So I'll tell the story because it was so exciting. I had my favorite streamer eat ever.
Oh, we should start out and say this. We were just talking about smallmouth.
Okay,
This was not smallmouth.
This was Alabama bass.
Alabama bass, which is well, if you want to know more about it, you got to go watch our podcast that we did with the guy that literally wrote the book on Matt Lewis from Auburn. Is a fisheries biologist. He literally like wrote the book on a lot of these bass in South Alabama. So anyways, we were fishing with these guys in South Alabama, fishing for Alabama bass,
which is like a spotted bass.
Acts, lives, is identical to a spotted bass in every way, other than I guess it's actually genetically different.
Yeah.
But so these things are extremely ferocious, and so that's what Brent and I were doing.
So my favorite streamer eat ever, I had cast across the current, stripped through some pockets, and my fly was swinging down at the bottom, and as the fly swung, it goes towards the surface, and the fish comes up, and I'm like lifting to help get the fly to the surface a little quicker, and the fish comes up and eats and misses. So naturally, like, I trout set.
Yeah.
Nice.
Of course. So the fly's gone, and I go, shoot. Like, I slapped the fly down probably 8 feet to the left because I just missed this fish.
It was a good fish, too.
It was a good fish. Well, that fish made a 90-degree turn and hunted that fly down. It jumped out of the water and ate my fly on entry back into the water.
No way.
Pile drive the fly back into the water.
Oh my.
It was the most aggressive thing I've ever seen a fish do.
A Shark Week shit.
Dude, you can't make that up.
No, it was awesome.
Yeah.
So anyway, those fish are super fun and aggressive, and like if you like streamer fishing, that's up there.
Damn.
Yeah. As far as freshwater goes.
Yeah.
It was insane. So
So
cool.
it's just Alabama bass is a type of largemouth?
No. It's a different
I
bass.
think they look similar to largemouth, but I know nothing about it. They're a spotted bass.
They're different, just like largemouth and smallmouth are different. This bass is different than those other bass.
Okay.
And then there's another bass that lives in the river that's different than those.
There's a ton of different bass.
There's a bunch of different bass.
Wow.
More than you know. Like, a lot of people look at that and be like, bass.
Bass. Yeah.
But, I mean, you know, realistically, it's like looking at two trout and being a rainbow and a brown and classifying those as the same thing.
Or like a cutthroat and a rainbow would probably be easier. Yeah.
Right. But totally different totally different species.
That's super cool.
Which is pretty cool that, you know, we I think mentioned this too. We went on a fishing trip, and I mean, how many species of fish did we catch? If and there's people that are into, you know, catching a lot of different species of fish on a fly rod.
Yeah, we are
Going on
multi-species anglers now.
Yes. Going on a big warm water trip like that, you're going to catch so many different species of fish.
Yep. Yeah, those rivers are chock full of fish compared to a trout stream that has like sculpin, trout, and maybe like a couple different
whitefish.
suckers. Yeah.
But even then, you might not hook any of the other fish.
More than likely not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus being in warm water, you're probably going to hook some of those other fish.
Right. Yeah. That was a really cool part of it. What's your favorite part of fishing down south? You've been there 3 times. I've been there once. What do you take back from that?
Man,
The food.
the food is
Chicken biscuits.
Is dang good. Yeah, I miss some southern food. That's for sure. I love I'm all in on like anywhere that's like overlooked. I always think that, you know, like I always like thinking outside the box in general, and I love that the fact that it's a location where not many people are thinking about fishing, and even driving by it doesn't look like much, but then you get out on the river and you get to see these runs, and you see the water that's super blue in some areas, like really clear and blue. And again, predatory fish, it's kind of hard to beat. Smallmouth, they fight. Like the whole thing is great, but I also love that there's not as many people on the river because it is overlooked.
We probably saw one group of other fishermen.
Mm-hmm.
Were they even fly fishing?
No. Like
Exactly.
there is no one out there. It's not like you jump on the Colorado River and you're going to see 10 to 15 guide boats throughout your float.
Yeah.
Like you're the only ones that are probably going to fish that entire stretch that day.
Yep.
Really that week.
I feel like now I'm appreciating more and more that aspect of fly fishing or just fishing more than really the fish that I'm actually targeting. It's like, let me get out there with the boys and let's just have a peaceful afternoon with and not seeing anybody. Like if you run into a bunch of boats and all these people who are like, oh, upset, you know, to see you on the river, that doesn't make the experience as fun.
Yep.
Maybe you're not catching as many, maybe you're catching a different species, but it's you're alone and you're like in nature, and I don't know, I love that part of it.
Yeah. I think you got to have both, cuz like I have learned to have fun and enjoy the like, you know, maybe you know the guy on the boat that's floating past you. It's like,
yeah, true,
hey dude,
true.
how is you doing today? Like, are you guys having fun? So you can find joy in like being out with like a large collective of people, but it doesn't replace the solitude and you know, being out there with just you and your core crew. So you kind of got to balance it now because it is getting bigger and more busy, which there's plenty to go around.
Yeah, but I think that is another thing that's important now is if you are on the river, like make it feel like a community type of thing instead of it feeling very like being standoffish.
Right.
You know, like welcoming, you know, maybe you see a new dude on the river. What's up, man? How's it going? Like, what's your name? How are you fishing? Like, how's it going for you? I think that makes everyone as a whole feel a lot more.
Yeah, it's way more enjoyable than like, dude, I'm fishing here. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd rather someone come up and be like, what's up, dude? How are you? You mind if I slide in this next run? It's like, well, I've really been looking forward to that one. Why don't I leave this one and go do that? Or like, you know, it's much more enjoyable versus just like yelling at each other and, you know, getting pissed.
And from my experience in Eastern Tennessee, which is now getting really busy from what I've been told, you know, if you make a bad impression on someone, the next time maybe you pass that person, it's going to, or I should say, if you make a good impression on someone, right, and you're nice to them or whatever, maybe the next time you pass them on the river or whatever, like, you know, you're not gonna try to get in his hole, right? Or that person's not gonna try to get in your hole, right? They're gonna be nice. They're gonna be respectful of your space and everything. So if you're maybe a dick or something, that might be a different story.
Then there are going to be rocks flying into your hole next time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So you guys were down there though in Alabama, and I think what was cool, something y'all were telling me about was just the community down there in Birmingham, because you guys went to the film tour and got to meet some of the kind of the fishermen down there, and it seems like they've got a pretty thriving little fly fishing community down there starting up.
Yeah, and that's part of kind of one of the reasons we wanted to go down there in the first place was kind of to shed a little bit of light on how cool that it really is that there's that. It's a small. I mean, it's a pretty small community.
Percentage wise, there is not many fly fishermen.
Right. And especially compared to somewhere like Denver, or Bozeman, or Salt Lake, you know, you think of these places that the film tour stops at. Maybe even Atlanta, because there's so many people in Atlanta. But like South Alabama just doesn't have that many people. Right? Like, and especially the amount of people that fly fish is low. But there were so many people at this event that were just so hyped up to have an event in Alabama that was centered around fly fishing that like everyone was so stoked.
And they were all so passionate, like genuine, passionate, and like doing things for the right reasons. It was really, really cool to see. There hadn't been like this big influx of ego down there like you might find in, let's say, the Keys or something like that. Yeah. So it was really refreshing to see just like passionate people, excited people, and genuine nice connection through the fly fishing world. It was awesome.
Yeah, in a place that you wouldn't ever, unless you're from around there, you wouldn't ever think like, oh, Birmingham, Middle Alabama, South Alabama, whatever, has this super cool group of people who are into this that, you know, they are into it just as much as the guys in Bozeman, but there's way less of them. But then, yeah, again, like the people that are there are super excited, passionate, and I think it's a little different. Like we were kind of saying, maybe you know, in Salt Lake, you walk in a brewery or something, you go to the bar here, and there's probably 4 or 5 other people in there that fly fish that you could potentially see another Sims hat and walk over, strike up a conversation with someone.
Right.
Versus in Alabama, that doesn't really exist. And so I think people were just so excited to be
surrounded by it.
That it was all about fly fishing.
Yeah.
And they couldn't believe that Kenny Powers had walked in the door, I heard.
Oh, God.
Kenny Powers didn't even make it in the door.
We were trying to film a podcast, and I unfortunately had to like run through everyone to the back because I knew that
we were late.
We were already late, believe it or not, because we'd fished that day. Crazy.
Wow.
Who'd
You
have
guys
thought? So we were already late. I mean, anyways, and so I had to like kind of get as quick as I could to the back so that we could get this podcast done
before the paparazzi knocked it out.
No, that's like your people though.
It was
the Alabama people. Like, he's home. He's here. Everybody.
No, it was. I mean, you know how it is. It's awesome meeting people that are excited to meet you, but there's no reason you should be excited to meet me because I'm
just the big dumb one.
I'm nothing. I'm just
the big dumb one. Thanks, Reddit.
The big dumb one from Reddit. If you ask whoever posted that. My wife loves that, by the way. Thank you for posting that.
Yeah. Shout out to that guy.
Flyslinger X45 on Reddit.
But no, it's really cool. You know, people being hyped on what we've done, and I think kind of especially. Like Sims is in Bozeman, and people support Sims, and probably feel some sort of loyalty to that, or Gloomis in Washington and whatever. So I think it's kind of cool that in
Blue Line,
Alabama, you don't have like what other fly companies are
not
really
many.
From Alabama. There's not many.
Right.
A couple guys There's one small rod person and. Central Alabama, but anyway, so there's just not a lot fly fishing happening, and so I think a lot of people, especially because of our market, is centered around the local fish and the local fishery, bringing attention to these local fish that I think a lot of people have kind of connected to that, and so it is really cool to be able to see like people that are excited about what I'm doing, because I'll be on the computer and I'm like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this?
Yeah, like you get that all the time.
My time?
Yeah, what am I doing?
Heck.
Yeah, it does feel gratifying though when someone comes up to you and they do appreciate what you're doing and they like look up to you in some sort of way.
You shouldn't, but
you shouldn't.
Right. Yeah, people in there, being genuinely excited about what we're doing makes me excited about what I'm doing.
Yeah. And I think some with the flies too. That's like such a, like we're saying, a specialization thing, a niche. Even within the fly fishing world, that's a very niche thing for that market that is starting to grow. Right? It really wasn't much of a market when you started out,
Right.
but there was a need for it, for someone to prioritize warm water fishing and the patterns that you're using.
Yeah.
And obviously you've been able to expand to trout and other species eventually, but starting with that core is really important.
Right.
Yeah, like the tickle monster. Is that public knowledge?
No.
It will be very soon.
Cut
Soon.
that. Cut that.
I think it's soon enough where it can be.
At BR Pat's Tickle Monster?
Yes.
But that is like a very purpose-built fly for a very specific way of fishing.
Yep.
And there's only one person who can fish it.
At BR Pat.
Right. And it's at BR Pat.
He fishes the hell out of the TM.
So we're headed to go fish, and I told Brent, I was like, "This is the only fly Bryant's going to throw today. He
Well, I
will
was
not throw
trying to
anything
decide.
else."
I was trying to decide, like, oh, well, maybe we should fish white on one rod and brown
I
and
was like,
orange
nope.
on another. And
I was
he's
like, nope. There's only one fly that's you can throw whatever you want, but there's only one fly that Brian's going to throw today.
Guaranteed.
He sat in the back of the boat, and he freaking cleaned up on me and Brent
Picked my pocket all day.
all day. Bryant's dirty dangling the tickle monster through these holes, and it's so funny. We'll be going through really good water, but it's not tickle monster water. Brian will just hang it up, be like,
Yep.
I'm not even fishing.
You fish it.
I'm not even fishing. He'll
Yep.
drink a red beer, whatever, eat some snacks.
Not worth
and-
my energy.
Yeah, not even worth it. But then we'll get to that tickle monster hole, and you can see it. You can see it coming. He's scheming. He's
hear
like,
that
yeah,
line.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm rowing.
start
He's sitting
stripping
behind me,
line
just
off.
in my ear. Zzz, 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 zzz.
And then you put up your rod because you're not.
Yeah,
gonna
because
catch
you
it.
know you might as well put
Just
it up. If
forget
the
it.
tickle monster
Yeah.
is going to be in that hole, it's not eating anything else but the tickle monster.
Well, what happened a couple times is, like, Bryant would hook a fish on the TM, and he'd be fighting it up towards the surface, and another fish would come up chasing it to see what's going on, and then you could cast your other fly
And
that
then
was obviously worthless in there and catch the other fish. But like that happened several times where the tickle monster just like, okay, they actually ate that. Now they'll eat the
Now let me catch the
leftovers.
dumb one.
Yeah.
Catch the stupid one in there.
I don't know what it is about that fly. It's just that I think because isn't it its body. What'd you call that? It's like
It's articulated.
it's articulated crawfish.
Yeah.
It
Or is
looks
it
like
crayfish?
a turd.
It looks so bad.
That will not catch fishermen, but
know.
holy smokes, it wrecks fish.
That is honest to God. So I've talked about this multiple times in the past too, but like you definitely walk this really weird line with what we've done, where you not only you've got to create flies that work and catch fish, but you've also heard like there's flies that catch fish, there's flies that catch fishermen or whatever, and one of the problems is some of our best flies, personally, that I think are our best patterns, people don't buy because they don't look good. Like they don't catch fishermen, but holy shit, they catch fish.
That's the TM right
And the
there.
tickle monster is unfortunately right in that zone where you look at it, you're like,
I saw it and
buying
was
that.
like, no way, dude. I would not tie
They
this
called
up.
it the tickle monster.
what?
What?
At BR Pat only fishes this?
They're out of stock already. Who bought all of these?
Brian, they're not even going to make it on the shelf. That may never say in stock on the website when the tickle monster
I think
comes
people
out.
have to order the day of, or they're
I
not gonna.
honestly think, like, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to market this thing because nobody's going to buy it off the pictures because it doesn't look good. But I designed it to catch fish, not to catch fishermen.
And that thing slaps.
I don't think that. I don't know. Heck, maybe we'll just link this podcast to it.
Yeah.
People can
Just a
learn
segment.
about it. But it's So that's kind of a weird like dynamic that you go through, kind of trying to create flies. But
I mean, we took it down to Alabama last year.
it
Oh
wrecked.
my gosh.
I can't wait to try one on trout if at BR Pat will give me one of them.
Oh,
because he owns
dude.
the entire nation's inventory.
That's
of it.
right. He has the entire inventory.
Yeah.
Even if I tie one, it immediately disappears.
So it's not
His fly
it's not
box.
it's not COVID anymore. It's actually just Bryant.
Right.
We have a Bryant problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't cite inventory issues with that.
Nope.
No, well, actually, no, it is the reason I don't have them is because I use this really specific brush to get that mottled look. You know, and I think that's a really big part of that fly, is it's not like one color.
Yep.
It's all those different colors, and so I use this brush, that is out of stock,
Naturally.
but due to COVID. But anyways,
I think the funniest thing was when we were fishing it last year because it was still an R&D pattern.
it was an R&D last
and you
year.
only had a couple. It was like, if you get caught on a log, you're getting it.
You're swimming to
You're
get
swimming to get it.
They take so long to tie.
Yeah.
That's the reason there's not that many of them in production.
that.
in
The classic,
world,
classic TM, dude.
but we fished one all day long,
And the next day.
and the next day we didn't
Literally
lose one.
one fly. Like, that's part of the magic of the design of that is, like, you can get it unstuck super easy.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come out of fish's mouth.
Well, because if you roll cast, and that articulated body
Yeah,
kind
and
of
then
like flips.
Yeah, because the weight on the other, because the hook and the weight are on opposite ends. That weight flips over the other side of it and
Unhooks
pulls it
it.
up.
There's your marketing campaign.
Yep.
That fly's incredible,
Not only does it catch fish,
But it doesn't catch logs.
and it won't catch you when you look at the picture of it. You're not gonna.
You're not going to buy this.
You won't buy it.
the Venn diagram of like catching fishermen versus you got to find the middle.
Right.
Middle
Right.
No,
one for
this
that.
thing is like far on the catching fish side. Like, it doesn't come close to that middle area.
But I knew because of how good it is and how much I don't want to tie him anymore. I had to get it produced.
Yep.
I think it's gonna be good. Anything else we can say about the upcoming blue line drop?
Oh, dear.
Oh dear.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. Let's see. No, I hate to cite it but it's what I'm getting fed. I can't get materials. I can't get, like, there's labor shortages and all that kind of stuff. That's not blue lines not citing COVID and labor shortages. That's what is getting told to me by my manufacturers and suppliers. For all, like,
You're passing the buck.
I'm passing the buck along, which is extremely unfortunate because I wish I wasn't. COVID is not affecting Blue Line as far as getting you products, but me getting products is still, that supply chain is still really messed up. And materials are out of stock, labor shortages, and gas prices, shipping stuff is getting more expensive that I'm kind of having to work through all the time. And so, anyways, we do have 30, I think it's 30 new patterns coming. It's 14 flies, but there's 32 new design between colors and sizes. There's 32 new SKUs coming.
That's a big
out of
drop.
14.
Big drop.
That is a big drop.
Big drop.
Tickle Monster being 2 SKUs because you can get it in 2 colors.
Oh.
At BR Pat only fishes the 1 color. Though.
Okay.
He won't touch the second.
But
color.
he hasn't tried the
He
other
hasn't tried the
color.
other.
He doesn't need to.
He won't. I was like, Brian, we got to make this an olive, dude. He's like, shut up.
Dude, I only fish the
I'm
TM
only
in
fishing
one
the
color.
natural color TM. You can go to hell. But
That's good.
no, anyways, yeah. So we're
This summer, right?
well. I was supposed to have some ship really recently. That's going to be a restock that doesn't have very much new stuff coming. But they're all in the works. It's just it literally is any day when they finish the production on them. Once they can get all the materials, once all the materials are sourced, and then we can get them shipped.
Got it.
That's all we're waiting on.
So what's like the core of the issue, do you think? Because it's the same with Gloomis on the supply chain side of things.
Mm-hmm.
What is the main core of the issue that is slowing everything down in production? Like, I've seen it with our apparel, and you've seen it with flies. Like,
Yep.
I mean, obviously, yeah, COVID happened, was a thing, and like shut some countries off. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Do you know like what the
Well,
issue?
it's a combo of, like, COVID did start the domino, and so now labor's a little harder to get, or like there was a delay in labor, and then there was also a spike in demand. Like, I would say the fly fishing industry is up 180 on average, 150 maybe
Yep.
percent, and so you had a drop in production, a spike in demand, and we're still recovering from that. And like,
Right.
COVID effects as far as manufacturing goes is not over. Like, it's still slowing production down, not only overseas, but also in the U.S. in some spots. So yeah, I mean, high demand and then some supply chain struggles, it makes for a tough time to deliver products on time and to meet the already growing demand. Like, no one forecasts for a 60 to 80% increase year over year.
Right.
you're probably an aggressive forecast might be 20 to 25%. So
Like growth of the industry.
well,
Or
yeah,
the company
but you
and
could
sales.
like whatever company you work for, like we're probably not going to forecast more than like if I sold 100 rods last year, I'm probably not going to expect to sell 125 or 130 the next year. Like that would be an aggressive forecast. Well, we've sold or would have sold 180 rods this year. So I would have already been short 50 rods.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And not just, on the materials aspect, obviously I'm not trying to sell materials, but I need the materials to get the flies done. And it's the same thing between me and, other potential fly companies or fly shops that are retailing this stuff too. Just what exact thing Brent said is, okay, well, look, we sold 10 packets of this fiber last year. Let's order 12 of them this year. And everybody did that. And, but the manufacturer, I'm sure, said the same thing. Well, we sold 1,000 packages of this fiber last year. We're not going to make 2,000 this year. Yeah, well, let's make 1,200 of them. And so there's just less of it to go around, especially on the synthetic side of things.
compared to demand. Yep.
Right. But even on the naturals side of things, turkeys still exist.
Right.
But, you got to get the turkeys, get the feathers, dye the feathers, package them and all that stuff. And same thing. So whether you're making synthetic materials, which a lot of our flies have been synthetic materials, or you're making naturals, it's all the same thing. So, and yeah, so I think that's a lot of it is the supply chain went down and the demand went up, which is why you're seeing such a
Right.
Yeah. Well, it feels like there's
hard
nothing
stop.
out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Do you think, because I've heard someone say that they're like, yeah, obviously the fly fishing, industry and the outdoor industry boomed in the last 2 or 3 years. But do you think, I've heard someone say it's going to taper off. Do you think that's true, or do you think it's going to continue to grow?
I think it's going to continue to grow, but we don't know at like what level.
Right.
So I'm forgetting the numbers, but I think we sold like 60% more fishing licenses than we did last year. So let's say there was like 100 anglers in your state. There was now 160 during COVID.
Yeah.
Well, maybe half will continue to buy fishing licenses throughout the rest of their life. So you're going to have half drop off. So you're going to lose 30 of the new 60. So now we have, 130 people versus like the COVID peak was maybe 160. So I do think there's going to be some drop off as we return back to more normal, like work life, whatever. But I don't think it's going to be like, oh, well, like I fished before COVID, I fished after COVID, or like I'm going to quit fishing after COVID. I don't think that's going to happen.
Right.
So like net, it's going to grow, but we may have had like a little, the person that tries it during COVID because there was nothing else to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, okay, well, it's not for me. Yeah.
Good and something else.
But I mean,
I agree.
there's a lot of people that are still going to continue to dabble, even if they're not like going full into it. So,
And with the flexibility of people's jobs now, being able to work remotely and all that, I mean, there's just going to be inherently more people curious or interested in that kind of thing.
definitely.
So,
Yeah.
taking a pit stop?
I am.
Do you want to reset
Let's
cameras?
do a quick pause because I'm going to do the same.
Pause.
I'm
Well,
reloading.
Are we officially back from intermission?
Yeah, we just had a little intermission, a little bathroom break.
Yep. That was nice.
Had to drain the tank. The coffee flows, dude. The beans
Lot
and
of
brew
coffee.
and
Ooh.
Didn't you get like a red eye bass bag of coffee?
Oh yeah, I did. I need to try that, but I'm
smelled
like,
really
I don't
good.
want to try it because I really like the bag and I don't
Yeah,
like
you want to
use
leave it
all.
as like a keepsake.
I know it's a problem.
what's this red eye bag thing?
The red eye bass blend that
So remember how like Kenny Powers couldn't even walk through the event to get to record the podcast?
Oh yeah.
Well, like he's getting gift offerings now as well. Like a bag of coffee,
Oh wow.
which smells delicious.
guy brought me. So they did a coffee roaster. I guess I don't know. I don't know what you call it if it's not alcohol.
It's not if it's not a distillery.
A roast. Yeah, a coffee roaster. I don't know. A coffee brewery.
It's
still
a roaster.
the coffee still?
Yeah,
Distillery?
the coffee distillery.
Yeah.
these folks did a red eye bass blend for the event that we were going to as part of a. So the F3T event that was hosted in Alabama actually wasn't like an official stop on the F3T tour, because why would the F3T go to Alabama, right? But so these guys all kind of came together and said, well, we're going to host a film, got a brewery involved, and they hosted it because, of course, like Trout Unlimited, I think, exists in this. I don't know. People are probably going to yell at me on the internet, but here we go. Trout Unlimited exists in Alabama, but it's kind of pointless because they don't spend any money in the state of Alabama. So, and there's no projects for them in the state of Alabama.
Isn't there some stocking programs?
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
Yeah.
I don't think
It's
I don't think
worthless.
you want anything to do with Alabama bass or Alabama trout.
No, you don't. Anyways, besides the point. So there are some really great river keepers and some different things like that. And the Native Fish Coalition of Alabama is really big, and that's way more impressive to me because that's gonna, that's protective native fish, not just trout, which is, obviously what Trout Unlimited does because it's right there in the name. So a lot of different local companies from there all kind of came together. Like we donated some stuff. A lot of people donated things for fundraisers. Like Hank donated some of his art. Anyways, things like that for to raise money for the Native Fish Coalition. These guys did a red eye bass coffee blend,
That's cool.
and it was good.
Smells good. That was a long-winded way.
I want to tell the
No,
people
but-
about what was going on.
Yeah, so I'm curious if because that has to do something with like not having a big Trout Unlimited, right? There's no Bass Unlimited that is prioritizing native smallmouth streams or largemouth streams, but maybe there are like local organizations.
There's the biggest one is probably that one in the Ozarks, the Ozark Smallmouth Alliance.
But there's huge money going into like the lake largemouth bass fisheries, but the streams and creeks get overlooked a ton down there. It seems like.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is one thing about like the fly fishing community down there is like the guys at the forefront of it seem very passionate and concerned about like conservation, and as they should. I mean, like it's great to start from the ground up with conservation, and not that community is like new in the last couple years, but it seems like it's growing a lot in the past couple years.
Yeah.
So
I'm also I feel like the local conservation groups, groups that are in your area, I feel like you're going to have you helping them out or donating to them. There's going to be a much bigger impact that you can see than maybe just donating to a bigger organization. Not to say that's bad, but
Right.
I feel like you're going to make a bigger impact.
Especially at your local level that you would directly benefit from, I guess.
Right.
it'd be
especially.
easier to see that way versus just like being a drop in the bucket of TU where you might not know what's happening, but you hope that they're doing the right things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, and I guess, on the flip side, you'd say, a lot of there are local TU chapters that, might have more
Funding.
more say.
Right.
And like, if I'm in I go to my local TU chapter meeting and we're sponsoring this river restoration project. Like, that's good too. But
But there's just no big overarching
right.
smallmouth unlimited.
Right.
Like,
That-
your
yeah.
local chapter of Trout Unlimited is probably going to, help working with them. You're going to see more of an impact on your area. But
Right.
yeah,
But yeah, one of the things I was kind of noting to Brent as well. It's a little different to me when I go back to Alabama to fish versus like, really unless you're catching in very selective spots in the U.S. rainbow trout, potential, steelhead, I guess, and salmon stuff is in there, or you're in kind of specific spots out west catching cutthroat. Every other trout in the U.S., brook trout in the east, like everything else is introduced. So if you're catching brown trout in the U.S., I mean, that fish hasn't been in that river. Like for
It's a
very
wild
long.
fish, but not a native fish. If you
Exactly.
watch Scotty's last video, you'd know that.
Well,
there you go.
there you are.
There you are.
So, but, I think it's kind of cool that there's nothing introduced in these rivers. You know, we're not. I mean, yeah, I go all over the place to catch brown.
Yeah.
But you know.
But in the Alabama rivers, they're like those are native
Right.
species for the most part.
That fish has been there for however long that fish has existed.
Right.
However long that river's freaking been doing its thing. I mean, there's fish that are swimming around in there.
You know what's
And that's
really
what you're going at.
you know what's really funny? So in this last video that I was editing, that part that you're talking about for native fish, I said something in there that's like, you know, it's really cool fishing for the native fish because these fish have been in here forever, right? Or they've been in the stream forever. I was showing my girlfriend this before I uploaded it, and before I had said these fish have been in the river for ions, and I meant to say eons. I never picked up on it, and I was done with the video. And I was like, yeah, that's a great talking point, Scotty. Good job, dude.
Wow.
Like, historian over here. And she's like, hey, I don't think that's the right word. Unfortunately, I was able to cut it out and use something else. But that would have been...
Good talking point.
Yeah.
You'd have got roasted on the meme
I would have
pages
gotten
about that.
roasted. Yeah.
You'd have like Newton with Scotty's face put over it.
Doing some chemistry with the ions.
Yeah. Speaking of, though, very good transition into the meme pages.
Ooh.
What do you guys, how do you guys feel, and what do you guys think about meme pages? Because there's starting to be a lot more meme pages in the fly world.
Yeah. I'll go first.
Step up.
We need
to
some
the
hot
plate.
takes.
Yeah. So, in general, I love them. Like, I think most of it is harmless fun, and like jokes that hit home a little too hard sometimes.
Yeah.
But like when they start roasting one person for like posting something on Instagram that they don't agree with, whether it's like a CBD sponsorship or whatever, like I don't think that needs to happen. But man, there's some just funny, relatable, like
Some gold.
just gold out there. So overall, I'm for it. There's going to be good and bad of everything, but yeah, man, the jokes are hilarious when you're just like stuck behind the computer and you scroll for a little bit and you just get you just get to laugh for
Yeah, I love a lot of the ones that are, you know, like you said, harmless fun, like poking fun at things. Like, you know, I haven't seen anything mean about us or whatever, but
except for the big dumb one.
There's
the
been
big
some,
dumb one.
there's been some questionable.
Questionable, yeah, but not. I don't know. I haven't seen any questionable memes though. I guess I've seen some comments that were maybe not.
I don't know. I heard you guys are spot burners.
Well,
Apparently.
people do say that we're spot burners, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but that's
Hey.
okay.
It's all right.
Yep.
But
That's their opinion.
yeah,
Not mine.
and you're entitled to that. But anyways, I don't know. I like the ones that are like when their antics are cheeky and fun, not mean and hurtful.
Yes.
Right.
But you can definitely tell every once in a while there will be one that's pretty mean,
Yeah.
but there may be some that are
Some of the, like, I feel like
Fun.
that are mean and targeting someone in specifically.
Right.
Sometimes you can tell it's like a little off. Like they've really tried really hard to make something and it didn't quite hit.
yeah.
And then it shows up as more like mean and
Right.
not as funny.
Yeah.
But
that's part of comedy is like
Yeah.
towing that line of like I gotta push it to the edge to be funny, but
totally.
Right.
you know,
Right.
some person interprets it wrong and then it's bad. But there's like some that are just pure hateful, which whatever. Get
Right.
those out of there.
But it is comedy at the end of the day, and I
Yeah.
think it appeals to such a specific niche, and only if you're a fly fisherman or you understand that world do you understand the meme.
Right,
And
yes.
that's kind of the beauty of memes in general.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Like so few words, but so much gets transferred through those.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's something that's so relatable that again you don't need many words. You're just like, oh my gosh, that's so freaking
Yep.
true.
Oh God, that's why we brought the meme of the day thing, which we need to
Yeah, we need
bring
to
back
bring
hard,
back quick.
But oh man, I can't. I don't.
Yeah.
There's too many good ones out there.
There's some really funny ones. I like the ones that are intentionally being fun. But
Did you see if Steve made it on a?
yeah, the Steven one was good. That one was hilarious.
I gotta pull this one up. What did it say again?
Is it the Pikachu?
Yeah, he was him wearing that Pikachu hat with the bull trout, and he was just like, it was like, Mom, go play with the neighbor.
This is me. I'm so bored. My mom, why don't you go fish with the neighbor kid? And then the neighbor kid, and it's just Steve with a Pikachu hat. Pikachu hat, no shirt, holding a bull trout.
It's like go fly fishing with the neighbor kid.
Yeah.
He was asking for
Anyways.
that.
He just doesn't care though.
No,
Like,
yeah.
that's what's so great about
and
it.
that's like a funny.
That was a
meme.
good
Like-
one.
Like yeah, that's like. Yeah, I mean that's a funny,
Right, not hateful.
not hateful
Mm-hmm.
meme that they made.
Yeah.
Spot on.
I also think you can't take the internet that seriously.
Yeah, if you do, you're not gonna have a fun time.
Because I have in the past, and then
Right.
but I'm starting to learn more and more how to deal with mean comments or, pushback or hate or whatever. You kind of just
all the mean comments are me on your videos.
yeah.
I have 30 or 40
Burner
YouTube
accounts.
that I just
XX
post.
fly
Oh, that's me.
angler. Yeah, that's you.
69.
69. Okay, that's you.
Yeah, how is
Yeah.
that? Like, has that had an effect on the content you put out? Like, do you censor some things or not put, other things out there because you're worried that people might be mean about it? Maybe it's not that you did anything wrong, but like, how does that influence what you put out?
I mean, I try to be. Well, for the comments' sake, I mean, I do read the comments for the most part. I don't always respond to the comments, and I try not to read into them too much. But I like to have an idea of what the audience is saying, right? Because there's some that are great, like great video, love this, blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great comment, but it doesn't do anything for me. But it's the comments that are like, oh, I really like how you used a little bit less music this time, or I really like this aspect. Like maybe I was trying something new with that film, and someone commented about that. I'm like, okay, so people did recognize that change and they liked that.
And-
so then I can apply that to the next film.
And like we did those like from the short bus, that was really useful for us because we had that cooking scene in the first short bus film. And we got so many comments that were like Joe Rogan says like post something and never look at the comments.
right.
But if we hadn't looked at the comments, so many people were like, "Oh, the cooking scene was funny. I liked it." A lot of comments about the cooking scene. So that's where we were like, "Oh, we're onto something here. We need to make sure that we continue doing these cooking scenes."
Right.
Totally.
And actually filming them.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think just understanding like your audience, right? And usually the mean comments that come in, oh, you spot burner, or like, why would you drive all this way to catch small fish? Like I get that sometimes. I'm like, this guy clearly has never seen any of my videos. He doesn't get it.
It makes me happy, and
Yeah.
I like being happy.
Yeah.
You know?
So those you just kind of ignore. It is what it is. I honestly, if there are mean ones that maybe get me triggered a little bit, I'll just delete them because I know that if I leave it there, I'll try to think back and respond. But
And then it'll affect what you put out next. Yeah.
it's never the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't think. Like huge fly fisherman Ben, he responds and like trolls all his,
Trolls the
his
comment.
comments.
Yeah, trolls the mean comments.
And it's like a
back.
part of his brand now. Like he
Right.
puts it on Instagram. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, those
that's
are good.
That's not quite my approach to it, but doesn't mean it's wrong.
Well, there's room for everyone.
But I also like to think of there's like a Teddy Roosevelt speech, like the Man in the Arena speech. And essentially he's talking about, people that are in the arena like every day, they're fighting, they're putting the work in. Those aren't going to be the people who are commenting.
Right.
Right. So like someone who's grinding away, trying to make films, trying to figure out their style, figure out their process. They're not going to be the ones commenting. The people who have never picked up a camera and maybe are like envious or jealous of the trip, that's probably gonna be the person who's like gonna comment.
Yeah.
So you have to look at it that way too. And be like, all right, whatever. I'm not gonna take criticism from that person. But if like Adam gave me some criticism, that's like, hey dude, I think this little spot in the video, maybe we should tone back on that, or maybe we should have added this. Like I'll take that criticism from you.
Yeah, anything that someone puts up that's actual constructive criticism.
Whether
I
it's
feel
good or
we
bad.
take. Yeah, whether it's good or bad. I mean, hey, I loved the cooking videos, or hey, I didn't like this part of the video. Like, that makes more sense than just someone that posts something that's just blatantly just negative.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like the big fat one,
The big dumb one.
big dumb one.
Get it right.
Hey, no carb diet, baby. Not fat
I know,
anymore.
I'm getting on it. But yeah, I think that's hilarious. But still, like,
But that's how you have to approach it. You have to like laugh
Right.
at it. If you can laugh at yourself, then
yeah,
You're fine.
I'd laugh at just about anything.
I know.
But no, I mean, I think that's very true. Like anything that's actually offered as constructive, I feel like we receive. Or, I mean, obviously, you're the one making them, but we collaborate a lot on the ideas and like the shot lists and things like that. And so, kind of coming up with, okay, well, maybe this didn't hit home for some people, maybe this one did, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think anything that you actually put out there that's constructive is obviously going to be much better received. Or, hey, I like the video. Like, those are nice to see too. Again, that doesn't change how we're going to do anything, but be like, oh, well, this was well received or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, even if you put out something that's remotely constructive, like,
it is funny though. You'll get 100 positive, the most positive comments ever, and you'll get one negative, and that one negative stings much harder.
That shit hurts.
And you forget about all those 100 good comments.
But that's their point.
Yeah,
that's the reason they're doing it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And they got you good.
They got me, man. Shit.
And I'm sitting over here laughing at my computer, like,
yeah, getting on Reddit again.
And I hear him in there go, oh.
Got him.
Now I can go to sleep tonight.
Well, go ahead.
I was gonna say, from a creating standpoint and a filming standpoint, I also think you still have to create stuff that is exciting for you, and you have to create for you.
Mm-hmm.
I have to make stuff that's going to excite me, or else it's not going to come through exciting and passionate to the audience, right?
Yep.
So maybe someone really wants to see, I want to see more cooking, this and that. Just as an example, maybe I don't want to insert cooking.
You've had enough hot dogs and macaroni.
Yeah. I've had enough close-ups of Adam just stuffing a huge hot dog. I don't think
do you have a compilation that we could put together for that?
Just not passionate about filming that anymore.
I'm just saying, I think that we could really monetize me eating more hot dogs.
OnlyFans. There we go.
I'm missing out on some.
No, that's a niche market.
That's a very
Neanderthal
niche market.
eats hot dog.
The big dumb one eats hot dogs.
Kirkland brand Kenny Powers eats hot dogs.
I love that.
Yeah, but you got to create stuff that makes you exciting. You got to fish stuff that it makes you excited. That's the same thing.
Yep.
If you're not fishing, like if you're just going to go fish that same small stream every single time, or that same pond every single time, just because it gets views, that's when I think it comes across. You after a while, it will come across disingenuous.
Right, and you're probably not going to be as happy the 10th time you've shot a video there.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, I think we could potentially segue that into what are we shooting next?
Ooh, what are we shooting next? Should we give them a little tease?
I know not a lot. I know you guys have a big trip coming up, and that's it. But you guys have like a full summer as far as I'm concerned.
We can let the podcast audience know a little bit about what we're doing. We won't give them all the deets.
Before the.
This will probably come out before the trip.
Ooh, wow.
Oh, so this is a hot take.
So you likely when you're listening to this, we're on the trip.
Yeah, we are heading somewhere to do a little bit of a saltwater deal.
A little.
I shouldn't say little. This is probably
tiny.
This is the biggest, I'd say, most expensive, most logistical trip that we've planned and put together.
For sure.
You guys are like tits deep in this thing.
Yeah, this has been. We've probably been planning this for. I mean, you mentioned the idea over a year ago, but we didn't really have the resources to make it happen until now. I don't even know if we have the resources.
That's what I was gonna say. It sounds like you guys are stretching it out pretty far.
We're overextended.
We're counting on you guys to watch this video and help us out a little bit.
Click the like button and
watch the ads. Watch the ads.
Make sure you watch these ads.
All of the ads.
Go buy a short bus hat or something.
Yeah. No, but we've got a really cool saltwater trip planned with the crew, the short bus crew, and is
the bus gonna make it?
The bus is getting. Let's just say the bus is gonna be
transformed
a little bit. It's gonna look different, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So y'all will find out soon enough, but we're really excited. We're gonna go target a fish that I personally have never caught or fished for. Neither has Brian or Steve. So
you guys are gonna do well.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna see, if you've seen a lot of like us missing fish and getting caught in trees. We maybe won't get caught in trees because
there will be no trees to get caught in.
Yeah.
But we will be
botching casts over and over and over again.
Are you guys going to
Steve
bring a
audio
whiteboard?
that is just like breaking your eardrums?
Oh yeah.
Lots of bleeps.
Yeah, you're gonna be on the other end of the flat somewhere. You're just gonna hear Steven
The other end of the
scream. Yeah,
Unfortunately, you might see Steve without a shirt on. It may
I
happen.
might have to do that. I'm gonna have to see him without a shirt on. But who
dear
knows?
God.
Gross.
But that's that trip.
Yep.
You got anything else on that you want to tell the audience?
Well, kind of go. We had been planning it a lot longer than people were commenting, but that's kind of another one. A lot of people commented, "Hey, we want a saltwater trip."
And that's definitely an interest.
Just wrapping back
like,
in.
So I just filmed a thing down in Beaufort, South Carolina, red fishing trip, and dude, every time I saw waterfish, I'm like, why do I not do this more? This is so sick.
It's a bad addiction.
Oh, it's bad, dude. Yeah. So I know this one's probably gonna mess us up too. We might not come back.
Bad. I
Just
may
stay.
live there.
Just stay.
But this summer, Brent and I actually also have a trip planned that we've got.
I'm
pretty
stoked.
pretty sick trip planned.
Yeah, quite on the adventurous side.
Very, very much so.
Yeah.
We tried to convince Adam, but for some reason he just didn't want to do it with
Not
us.
doing it.
Don't. One day we'll get him.
We'll get him.
Like a towie, like a trailer.
What are they called? Burleys?
Can we talk about that trip at all? Like, what
Yeah.
what else do you want to say other than just a big adventure?
Yeah, we've got. It's going to involve multi-sport. Well, I guess it kind of goes into like the moving out here to Salt Lake. I've been getting a little bit into biking,
Mm-hmm.
and I've really enjoyed that. And there's obviously a lot of like I've also enjoyed backpacking. So
Mhm.
like the bike packing kind of idea was really appealing to me, and so we kind of wanted to plan something around that would like
Yeah.
an adventure that we're living off of tents, living
Right.
off of everything that we have.
This one is so exciting for me because, like, I mountain biked a lot before I ever even touched a fly rod. And now I'm meeting more people in the fly fishing industry that bike as well. So it's like two of my most favorite things combined, and new friends. It's like I'm super stoked on this one.
Yeah. And I'm stoked because when I threw the idea out at you, because we're also doing with our buddy Will Phelps. Shout out Will.
What's up,
And-
Will?
But when I threw the idea at you, you were like automatic yes. You're like,
Yeah, done.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
are we doing it?
We'll make it happen.
Because I remember you mentioned biking in Colorado, and I was like, all right, Brent has to come.
we got to do this. Yeah.
When did
Yeah.
that start? Like biking stuff for you?
Dude, I've been biking since I was like literally 2, and my dad would like when we were really, really young, elementary school, my dad would drive us to the top of these mountain bike trails, and we would just ride down them because he didn't want to pedal to the top.
Yeah.
So we would be riding these like black diamond mountain bike trails when I was 6, 7, 8.
Oh my god.
It would take us forever. We'd crash a bunch and whatever, but like that's been my thing for quite a while. And then fly fishing took over, and now I'm like sharing them quite a bit, which is super fun.
Yeah.
So
Which I think will be cool to be able to merge the two together. It just adds such a different adventure element to like a trip.
yeah, and the gear list just goes.
Yes. And your budget goes, and your bank
Yeah.
account goes.
Yep. But I'm a total gearhead, so I was like, the more the merrier.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, dude, I can't wait.
Y'all had me talking to sponsors, and I'm like, I don't know, dude.
Yeah, what?
They're riding a bike.
Yeah, what the hell is they
Yeah.
know cars exist, right?
Like we have a Grom.
There's motors in bikes.
Like they even have that.
So you're not even going to use the technology available?
You're like
The electric-
purposefully being ignorant at this point.
We're going green, okay?
I'm like talking to camping sponsors, and I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like they're gonna ride the bikes. They're
Can you
sleeping
do
at camp
outside?
with the bikes and? I'm as confused as you are.
What are we talking about?
Anyways,
Yeah, they just said they wanted to go up a thing, down a thing, and like catch some fish. Okay.
Yeah.
you know there's roads there. You can just drive.
Yeah.
No, I get it. Well,
gonna be
anyways,
sick.
that's a big one. We've got a few big things lined up because then you and I are going to Alaska.
That's right.
Finally, never been.
Gee.
Sheesh. Pretty excited about that one.
I know, dude.
We're going to go hang out with a lodge up in Alaska and film a little hype video for them and get them some media content. And
about?
And then we're going to put a little video about it out on our channel.
What about down south?
We potentially have 2 saltwater trips this year because we may do a redfish trip as well.
Wait, that one's on. That's Hinge. That's not there yet. Because it's in my calendar.
We're trying to get it. We're trying to figure it out.
I'll like change that to pencil from pen. That's fine.
You mean pen to pencil?
Yeah.
Cross it out with the pen,
And then
write it back in with pencil, but you can highlight it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you can always erase under the highlighter and
Right.
like refill something important.
Exactly.
Yep.
Essentially, without giving too much away, for the whole year, so basically from now until, I mean, it's gonna be really crazy the next month and a half or 2 months for us. So I don't know how consistent we'll be with putting the videos out on YouTube. It's probably gonna be a lot of filming, and then on the back end there'll be a lot of editing starting in or a lot of videos releasing starting kind of July, August.
Yeah.
So
brewery events though.
yeah, keeping heads up.
Yeah,
for that.
those of you who we obviously had a ton of people who were really excited to come to the Salt Lake event that we unfortunately had to cancel earlier this year. We had a huge turnout at the one in Denver, which was awesome to see.
That was
so
crazy.
many people.
Yeah.
But so we know you guys liked those. We enjoyed doing them as well. So we are planning to do more of them this year. Currently, we kind of have 4 that we've penciled in.
Highlighted or just straight?
Highlighted with the pencil though.
Okay.
And we're working on getting dates and stuff for you guys for that. So,
And those are more like
drop a comment what town or what city we should go to.
Ooh,
Let
yeah.
us know,
If you got
because we
4
would
of
love to hear where you guys are listening from and where you'd like to see us come to. Because we would, I mean, I think going back to the film tour thing, like we want to start figuring out ways to kind of bring the community together.
Yeah.
Right, like bring people who are all in the same kind of mindset and bring them and have a fun event and all get together. So we're definitely working on that. While working on some other things. So
tell us what distillery we should go to.
yes. You can email Adam specifically if you have any really in-depth details.
like hot tips on distilleries.
Yeah, distillery tips. That's where we're gonna be.
Adam will be in the back room sampling.
You won't get to meet Adam.
Yeah.
He'll be there.
He'll be there or he'll be passed out.
in the hotel.
No.
Like, here's the bus tour. Don't mind Adam. He's snoring. But, like, in the back is where we tie flies. And
All right. Well, I reckon we've rambled enough.
I think we pulled on the listeners' ears enough today.
That's right.
my voice box is almost used up.
Dude, it sounded great. It sounded better
it's
than
actually
you thought.
loosening
got
up.
better as it
Yeah.
went.
You had to get it warmed
Get
up.
it warmed up. Pull the pull starter.
Yeah.
Get her fired up.
What do you have in there? Like a little 2-stroke?
It's a big bore.
Does it run gas oil mix or I guess coffee?
The jetting is way wrong for this altitude right now.
So, all right, to close out, I would like to ask from both y'all, what has been the biggest advice that someone has given you about fly fishing, like in fly fishing? That's helped you out.
That you can't make money doing it.
I might take the easy route on this one, but like if you're not catching fish, add a split shot.
Oh.
Like that's a pretty basic tip, but
That's a hot take though.
Split shot or weight,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
also split shot.
But like, yeah, try changing your depth before you change your flies.
Yeah.
If it comes to fishing.
that.
Yeah. And just spend time doing things that you have fun with. You're going to be much more willing to learn if you're enjoying it versus if you're just like hopeless doing some type of fishing you're not stoked on. So
I like that.
you got 2 for 1 right there. I won't charge you extra.
Yeah, I was gonna say, shoot.
Here's my Venmo.
Yeah, link below.
Link below
Because
to Brent's
Brent
Venmo.
offered 2 tips,
So
we're gonna have to.
If you feel like that was helpful.
It's coming straight out of the
Tip
budget.
I don't know. I guess. I mean, most of the tips I've ever received fishing were like, cast better or like.
Wow, that's helpful.
Do the
stuff
same,
like
but
that.
better.
Hey, suck less.
Hey, suck less when you're out doing this, and those really hit home. No, I would say for me, it's probably not. I guess it's fishing related now, but I obviously applied it to fishing. My dad always told me that there was no point in doing something with your life that you didn't like doing. Like, don't. Why would you waste your life? Not that having a 9 to 5 and that kind of thing is a waste, but do what you want to do, and don't. If you don't like what you're doing, then why are you doing it? Yep. And I obviously liked fishing, and I ended up applying that to fishing. But that's the biggest advice I would say that I've taken. A little different than Brent's, but
no, that's great. I think you've also since taken the fly fishing stuff now full time, like with Blue Line, and then working with me with Wildfly and Short Buzz stuff in the last year or two. And I mean, your well-being and like your happiness has probably gotten way up.
So much better.
Like you're way less stressed. I mean,
yeah, look how happy.
Yeah, he's just smiling the whole time.
No, it's great.
Love this.
Yeah, no, I'd love that though. I think it's so true. I mean, we wouldn't be doing this for the money. I mean,
no,
you're not going to make
nobody does this for the money.
You're not making a killing in fly fishing, most likely. Yeah. There's very few people that do really well. So
yeah, totally.
But
what's your piece of advice?
Oh, that's
you probably said it before, but I haven't heard it.
Yeah, no, that's. I don't know who I got this exactly from, but I feel like just the advice of like, figuring kind of along the lines of what you said, but more relating to fishing, like do what makes you excited in fishing. Like go fish the things that are exciting to you. And I think for a while I was trying to fish what I was supposed to be fishing or what the fly shops told me to fish. But I think that was when it really clicked, was when you kind of think outside the box a little bit of like, oh, there's these. And that's why I was so drawn to small streams, because everyone was fishing the main stock streams, and you show up, there's a million people there, and you're trying to fight for holes and stuff like that. You show up at the end of the month, there's no fish, right? Because they've been fished out. Yep. So like thinking outside the box and then going and exploring these little creeks where you didn't see anyone, or maybe you saw someone here and there, and maybe you're catching smaller fish, but it's like I was learning so much more doing that and kind of thinking outside the box, taking some knowledge and some advice from fly shops, but then being like, you know what? Let me try something that isn't so much what I was told is how you catch fish.
That's cool. That's how you build tools for your toolbox of fishing skills.
Yeah, and I think it's applied with YouTube and like everything I've done. So
totally.
Yeah. If you if something excites you, I think just go after it, man.
Yep.
Take the baby steps and then just work your way up. Like it's the only way to do it. You'll figure it out.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
man.
Brent, appreciate you stopping in, dude, even with a crackled voice.
I'm sorry, viewers. That voice has been rough.
I honestly don't think it's that bad.
I hope not, for their sake.
We'll see. We might have to do a little bit of editing on this one.
Auto-tune this shit.
Yeah.
It's like I called you on the phone the other day, and I thought someone else had picked up.
That was the day right after the meeting I found.
Put split shots on.
Hello, Adam.
That's good. All right, guys. Well, appreciate it. Appreciate y'all listening. We're going to try to be more consistent, hopefully come out with an episode, maybe like 2 to 4 episodes a month. It's kind of the goal this summer. So pay attention to that and check out the Ramblin Fly if you want some more, because those guys are putting out a lot of episodes too.
Thank you, Scotty.
Ramblin Fly and on the Blue Line channel as well on YouTube.
Yep.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks. We've been great.
You have been great. Bye.